They summoned us to stand beneath dying stars. They expected apology. They expected surrender. They expected fear. Instead, we ignited the void. The chamber of the alien council was not built for comfort. It was built for dominance, suspended in orbit around a collapsed neutron star. The structure shimmered like a blade forged from light. 12 species sat in a perfect ring, each older than our recorded history, each certain of their superiority, and in the center of that ring stood a single human delegation. No weapons, no fleet, no raised voices, just us. The Corthari High Speaker unfolded its crystalline limbs and projected a lattice of blue light into the vacuum-sealed chamber. Human ships appeared as flickering dots. Your propulsion ceilings are inefficient. Your energy conversion ratios are primitive. Your lifespan limits reduce strategic patience. Every statement landed like a verdict. They had mapped our biology, measured our gravity tolerance, simulated our war doctrines, and they had concluded one thing: humanity had reached its limit. The chamber dimmed as the central star pulsed weakly behind reinforced transparent alloys. That star was the reason for this summit. It was dying, and with it, a cluster of 12 inhabited systems. The Council had tried everything: quantum siphons, dark matter injection, gravitic compression stabilization. Nothing worked. Now they sought a symbolic gesture, an official declaration that the region would be abandoned, and Earth had proposed something else. The Threxian strategist clicked its mandibles in amusement. You propose to ignite vacuum fluctuations. Its tone carried something between disbelief and insult. You intend to harvest nothingness. A ripple of alien laughter circled the chamber. The proposal had come from a coalition of human physicists, engineers, and deep space miners, a theory long considered unstable, dangerous, impossible: the Void Spark Initiative. We had discovered that in certain high-density gravitational shear zones, vacuum energy could be destabilized, briefly, if triggered by synchronized antimatter compression fields. In simpler terms, we believed the void itself could be persuaded to burn. The Council saw it as desperation. The human delegation saw it as evolution. Ambassador Alara Vance stepped forward. No military rank, no enhanced exoskeleton, just a calm, steady voice. You called this session to declare extinction inevitable, she said. We came to offer ignition. The Corthari speaker's crystalline body refracted starlight in sharp angles. You mistake courage for capacity. Human? No, Alara replied evenly. You mistake precedent for law. The chamber went silent, because that, more than the physics, was what unsettled them. Humans did not accept fixed ceilings. We did not evolve in stable atmospheres. We did not inherit optimal gravity. We did not dominate through natural advantage. We survived through audacity. The Council projected simulations across the chamber walls. In every scenario, the human ignition model destabilized into catastrophic collapse, black hole formation, subspace implosion, system-wide radiation bursts, probability of success 3.7%. The Threxian strategist tilted its elongated skull. You staked 12 civilizations on a 3% anomaly. Alara didn't blink. We built our species on worse odds. 3 months later, construction began. The ignition array was assembled in the outer halo of the dying system far beyond planetary orbits. Human industrial carriers arrived first, followed by automated lattice drones, antimatter containment cores, and synchronized gravitic amplifiers. The Council observed from a safe distance. They predicted failure. Quietly prepared evacuation fleets. They called us reckless in their internal transmissions. What they didn't understand was this: we had already rehearsed collapse. On Mars colonies that nearly suffocated. On Europa stations crushed by tidal fractures. on fusion reactors that failed before they succeeded. We had a saying on Earth, if it doesn't exist, build it. If it breaks, rebuild it stronger. The Void platform expanded into a ring spanning thousands of kilometers. At its heart, 12 antimatter cores arranged in harmonic sequence. Human engineers worked in shifts measured not in hours, but in precision cycles. Every misalignment recalibrated. Every anomaly logged and crushed under relentless iteration. The Council transmitted a final advisory: abort ignition. Statistical models remain unchanged. Human Command responded with a single line: models do not account for defiance. Ignition day. The dying star flickered like a failing heartbeat. Billions watched from evacuation ships and distant colonies. Alien observers streamed encrypted feeds to their homeworlds. This was either the most arrogant mistake in galactic history, or the moment the Void changed forever. Alara Vance stood inside the command sphere, surrounded by engineers and physicists whose hands trembled, but whose eyes burned steady. Antimatter cores at threshold. Came the first report. Gravitic shear alignment holding at 99.94%. Vacuum fluctuation spike detected. The platform began to hum, not audibly, but gravitationally. Spacetime rippled like fabric pulled too tight. The Council's observation fleet pulled back another 0.3 astronomical units. They did not want to be remembered as collateral damage. Begin sequence. Alara ordered. 12 cores fired in harmonic resonance. Space twisted. The Void, empty, silent, eternal, shuddered. And then it caught, not with flame, not with explosion, but with radiant, blinding emergence. A surge of stabilized vacuum energy erupted outward, not destructive, but generative. The dying star absorbed it like oxygen into lungs long starved. Fusion reactions reignited. Core pressure stabilized. Luminosity spiked. Across the system light returned. Planets bathed once more in warmth. The star did not merely survive. It strengthened. Council sensors flooded with impossible readings. Their models fractured in real time. The Corthari speaker transmitted one word: impossible. But the data was undeniable. Humanity had done what 12 advanced civilizations could not. We had ignited the Void. Aftermath, the Council reconvened in emergency session. This time humanity did not stand alone in the center. Representatives of the saved systems requested full voting recognition for Earth. The Threxian strategist addressed Alara directly. You exceeded biological expectation. She smiled faintly. We exceeded yours. What unsettled them most wasn't the technology. It was the philosophy. While they sought equilibrium, we sought breakthrough. While they calculated acceptable loss, we calculated unacceptable surrender. The Void Spark initiative became the foundation for a new energy paradigm. Entire star clusters once deemed unsustainable were revitalized. Human engineers were invited, cautiously at first, into alien research coalitions. But the tone had changed, no longer mockery, now respect. The Council believed the story had ended with ignition. They were wrong. Because when humanity forced the Void to burn, something noticed. 3 weeks after the successful stabilization of the star, deep-range observatories began detecting anomalies beyond the halo of the rejuvenated system. Not radiation, not debris, not gravitational drift. Something rhythmic. A pulse moving through vacuum density gradients. At first, it registered as background noise, cosmic static stirred by the ignition surge. But the pattern repeated, not randomly, intentionally spaced, a signal. The Corthari analysts dismissed it. Residual fluctuation decay. Human physicists disagreed. Dr. Arun Kale, chief architect of the Void Spark Initiative, leaned over the holographic projection inside Lunar Research Array 7. It's not decaying, he said quietly. It's synchronizing. The pulse frequency was converging toward the exact harmonic ratio used during ignition. The void wasn't collapsing. It was responding. The Council confronts Earth. An emergency convocation was called, not with mockery this time, but with urgency. The chamber around the neutron star felt smaller now. The Threxian strategist wasted no ceremony. "What did you awaken?" Alara Vance did not answer immediately, because humanity had already been running its own projections, and the possibilities were staggering. Vacuum energy was not simply emptiness. It was a field, dynamic, fluctuating, alive with quantum potential. For millennia, civilizations had treated it as background fabric. Humans had treated it as fuel. Now evidence suggested it might be something more. Dr. Kale projected the anomaly data. The ignition created a coherent disturbance in the vacuum field. The pattern is not dissipating. It is stabilizing around our harmonic signature. The Kurthari speaker's crystalline body dimmed. "You imply consciousness." "We imply structure," Alara corrected. "Emergent structure." The pulse intensified, and then, without warning, it transmitted. First contact with the infinite, no language, no image, just mathematical recursion layered into the vacuum oscillation, prime sequences, gravitational constants, and finally, the harmonic ratio of the void spark. The chamber fell silent. The void had mirrored humanity. The Threxian strategist's voice lowered to a near whisper. "You have drawn attention from something fundamental." "Wes," Alara replied, "and it's answering." Over the next 72 hours, the pulse condensed into a localized distortion nearly 1 astronomical unit beyond the revived star. Spacetime curved inward, not violently, but deliberately. From that curvature emerged a phenomenon no sensor array could fully map. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a being. It was a convergence. Vacuum energy folding around itself in stable, self-referential patterns. The Council designated it extradimensional emergent field, class Omega. Humans gave it a simpler name, the listener, because it only reacted when we transmitted harmonic ignition frequencies. When silent, it drifted. When addressed, it aligned. The first deliberate transmission was sent from the void platform itself. A scaled-down ignition pulse. Harmless, exploratory. The listener responded instantly. It replicated the pulse. Stronger, cleaner, more precise. The Council recoiled. "You have introduced yourselves to a cosmic predator." Alara shook her head. "No. We introduced ourselves to potential." The fear of the ancient, for the first time in recorded galactic history, the oldest civilizations showed fear, not of humanity, of unpredictability. They had built empires on stability, on control, on minimizing chaos. Humanity had just demonstrated that chaos could be harnessed. And now the void itself seemed curious. The Kurthari speaker addressed Earth privately. "If this entity destabilizes the vacuum on a universal scale, all stars may extinguish." Dr. Kale responded calmly. "If it wanted extinction, it had the energy to do so before we ever arrived." The listener had not attacked. It had observed, it had mirrored, it had refined, and when human engineers transmitted a new harmonic variation, an exploratory modulation, the listener adjusted space, time curvature to amplify it. It was learning. The second ignition, the Council demanded containment. Humanity proposed collaboration. A controlled experiment was authorized, under protest. A micro-scale ignition pulse, directed not at a star, but into interstellar medium. The void platform powered once more. This time, alien observers did not retreat. They watched with something close to anticipation. The pulse fired. The listener reacted. Vacuum energy condensed into a luminous filament stretching across millions of kilometers. Not destructive, constructive. Hydrogen density increased along its path. Within days, gravitational accretion began. Within months, a proto-star formed. The Council had spent centuries seeding stars through conventional means. Humanity and the listener had just accelerated the process exponentially. The Threxian strategist spoke with uncharacteristic restraint. "You are co-creating stellar genesis." Ilara's reply was steady. "We're co-creating possibility." The shift in power, everything changed after that. The political balance of the galaxy tilted. Not through conquest, through capability. Systems once considered resource poor became viable. Dark regions once avoided became canvases. And humanity, once measured as biologically limited, became indispensable. But the most profound shift was philosophical. The Council's oldest doctrine stated, "The universe is finite and governed by constraint." Humanity's doctrine had always been different. The universe's opportunity waiting for ignition. Now the void itself seemed to agree. The confrontation, not all species accepted this transformation. A coalition within the Council, led by a minor but technologically advanced species known as the Virex Collective, declared the listener an existential threat. They mobilized a fleet. Their plan was simple: disrupt the vacuum convergence with gravitic implosion weapons. Erase the anomaly before it spread. Humanity intercepted the fleet at the edge of the listener's influence field. This time, we did not arrive unarmed. But we did not fire first. Ilara transmitted a single message. "You fear what you cannot control. We once feared the same. Stand down." The Virex commander responded coldly. "You have destabilized cosmic equilibrium." Dr. Kale replied over open channel. "No, we expanded it." The Virex fleet advanced, and the listener reacted, not with aggression, but with geometry. Space folded. Weapons misaligned. Targeting systems lost reference frames. No explosions. No casualties. Just impossibility rendered harmless. The Virex fleet found themselves repositioned, gently, 3 astronomical units away. The message was unmistakable. The Void did not wish violence, but it would not permit destruction of its new collaborators. The Council reconvened once more. This time the vote was unanimous. Humanity was granted full strategic parity, not because of military strength, not because of numbers, but because we had proven something none of them dared attempt. We did not accept the universe as static. We engaged it. We challenged it. We listened when it answered. The Korthari speaker addressed Earth publicly. "You were measured as limited." Pause. "You have demonstrated transcendence." Ilara's closing words echoed across 12 civilizations. "We are not transcendent. We are curious. And curiosity is stronger than fear." The new frontier, in the years that followed, human and alien scientists worked alongside the listener. New stars were born where darkness once ruled. Energy scarcity became obsolete. Exploration accelerated beyond prior imagination. But humanity never forgot the chamber where we were mocked. Never forgot the simulations predicting failure. Never forgot the laughter. Because that laughter had fueled us, and the void, vast, ancient, immeasurable, had answered not to power, but to daring. The galaxy adjusted to humanity. That was its first mistake, because we were not done. For millennia, the Council civilizations had followed a predictable arc: discovery, expansion, optimization, stability, and then plateau. Once energy needs were met and territorial conflicts stabilized, progress slowed. Innovation became incremental. Risk became unacceptable. Survival turned into maintenance. Humanity did not understand maintenance. We understood momentum. Even after the Void Spark Initiative and the emergence of the listener, Earth did not slow down. Instead, we asked a new question. If the Void can ignite stars, what else can it become? Dr. Arun Kale presented the next concept: before a joint human council summit. It was titled simply Void Architecture. The theory proposed shaping vacuum energy into stable macrostructures, bridges across interstellar distances, artificial gravity corridors, and protective stellar shields. Not ships, not stations, but infrastructure woven directly into spacetime. The chamber reacted the way it once had months before, with disbelief. The Threxian strategist narrowed its multifaceted eyes. You have already destabilized natural constants once. We stabilized them. Kale corrected gently. The Corthari speaker's voice resonated like struck crystal. You now propose rewriting cosmological topology. Alara Vance leaned forward. We propose building roads where none exist. The listener pulsed softly in the background field beyond the chamber. Its presence now accepted, though not fully understood, and as if on cue, it mirrored the structural equations being projected. Perfectly, the prototype would connect two systems separated by 18 light years. Traditional travel decades, even with council-level propulsion. Void architecture projection instantaneous transit via stabilized vacuum corridor. The council voted 7-5 in favor of limited experimentation. The Virex collective abstained. Construction began in deep interstellar space, far from inhabited systems. Human engineers worked alongside alien physicists who once doubted them. The tone had shifted from mockery to wary collaboration. But beneath the surface, tension remained. If humanity could bend vacuum energy into bridges, we would no longer be bound by distance, and civilizations built on geographic advantage would lose leverage. Activation required harmonic synchronization with the listener. For the first time, humanity did not initiate the frequency. We asked. Dr. Kale transmitted a structured mathematical request, an invitation, not a command. The listener responded with a pulse of elegant complexity. Agreement. The Void platform, now expanded into a lattice spanning millions of kilometers, channeled vacuum energy into a narrow corridor between the two designated coordinates. At first, nothing happened. Then space elongated, not visibly, but measurably. Gravitational vectors realigned along a linear path. Quantum noise dampened into coherence. And then, a window opened, not a swirling wormhole, not a violent tear, a calm, luminous passage stretching into impossible depth. Sensors confirmed it. Transit time 0. The first vessel to cross was not human. It was a Corthari scientific craft. When it emerged instantly 18 light years away, the council chamber erupted. Not in laughter this time, but stunned silence. The plateau had been shattered. Resistance from the old guard progress, however, never moves unopposed. A faction within the council, ancient species who had ruled unchallenged for eons, began quietly consolidating power. They feared not humanity's aggression. They feared humanity's acceleration. The Virex collective resurfaced, this time with allies. Their argument was philosophical. Rapid advancement destabilizes civilization. Equilibrium ensures survival. Humanity countered with its own doctrine. Stagnation ensures decay. Tensions escalated. Trade agreements stalled. Joint research slowed. Military posturing increased. But humanity refused confrontation. We did something far more unsettling. We kept building. Using void architecture principles, Earth proposed a planetary, scale vacuum buffer capable of deflecting gamma bursts and supernova radiation. A literal shield woven from nothingness. The Council called it unnecessary. Humanity built it anyway, around a frontier colony exposed to volatile stellar activity. When a nearby unstable star erupted months later, the shield absorbed the radiation wave like mist against glass. 0 casualties, 0 infrastructure loss. The data forced even the skeptics into reluctant admiration. But admiration breeds fear when it comes too quickly. The Virex-led faction made their move in secrecy. They developed a gravitic disruptor designed specifically to sever the listener's harmonic coherence with human technology. Their goal was not destruction. It was isolation. If humanity lost its connection to the void entity, our rapid progress would stall. They deployed the device near a developing void bridge under construction. The effect was immediate. The bridge flickered. Vacuum oscillations destabilized. Transit windows collapsed. Across multiple systems, infrastructure faltered. The Council convened in emergency panic, and for the first time, humanity was the one being measured again. "Can you restore stability?" the Corthari speaker demanded. "Doctor." Kale's answer was quiet. "Not alone." Instead of retaliation, humanity made a decision that shocked even our allies. We opened full access to void architecture source models, every equation, every vulnerability, to every Council species, including the Virex. Alara Vance addressed the galaxy. "Wide transmission. You fear imbalance because you believe power must be controlled by few. We do not." A pause. "The void answered us because we approached it with curiosity, not ownership." The listener pulsed. Stronger than before. Human engineers and alien physicists collaborated in real time, counteracting the disruptor's interference. The Virex device was not destroyed. It was integrated, its own harmonic distortion repurposed to strengthen overall coherence. Within hours, the bridges stabilized. Within days, the stellar shield network expanded. The attempted sabotage had backfired, not because humanity overpowered it, but because we absorbed it. The Virex Collective formally dissolved their opposition faction. Their leader addressed the Council. "One mistook acceleration for recklessness. It is adaptation." The Corthari speaker turned toward the human delegation. "You do not conquer opposition, you convert it." Adalara allowed herself a small smile. "Why evolve it?" The listener's presence expanded subtly across mapped space, not dominating but interwoven. It had not chosen humanity as masters. It had chosen us as partners, because we did not seek to control the void. We sought to understand it. With void bridges operational and stellar shields active, exploration surged. Regions previously unreachable became accessible. Dark matter anomalies were charted. Rogue planets were stabilized. Intergalactic probes launched. Humanity no longer stood at the edge of Council civilization. We stood at the frontier of the unknown, and the unknown, once terrifying, now felt like invitation. Years after the first ignition, the Council reconvened in the same chamber orbiting the neutron star. The tone was unrecognizable from that first meeting. The Threxian strategist addressed Alara directly. "You were mocked for biological limitation." Pause. "You have demonstrated conceptual infinity." Ilara looked out at the revitalized star beyond the chamber walls. "We are still limited," she said softly. "We just refuse to accept where the line is drawn." The listener pulsed faintly in the cosmic background, no longer anomaly, but presence. The galaxy had tried to measure humanity. It had tried to predict us. It had tried to confine us within statistical probability. But humans were never defined by probability. We were defined by response. When told extinction was inevitable, we ignited the void. When told equilibrium was sacred, we built bridges through it. When faced with fear, we offered collaboration, and the universe answered. The galaxy had adjusted to humanity. The Council had accepted us. The Virex had aligned with us. The listener had partnered with us. But something older than all of them had been watching, and it did not approve. Exploration probes began disappearing beyond the galactic rim, not destroyed, not malfunctioning, vanished. Void bridges extending toward intergalactic space collapsed without destabilization signatures. Stellar shields flickered in systems that had never experienced radiation spikes. The listener pulsed erratically. For the first time since its emergence, its harmonic patterns fractured. Dr. Arun Kale stared at the incoming data inside Lunar Research Array 7. "This isn't random interference," he whispered. "It's suppression." The council convened in emergency session. And then the signal arrived. It did not come through vacuum harmonics. It did not come through electromagnetic channels. It came through gravitational constants themselves. A universal modulation, subtle but unmistakable, shifting physical ratios by infinitesimal degrees, enough to destabilize void architecture, enough to silence the listener. The message embedded within the shift was simple: cease expansion. Across 12 civilizations, panic spread. The Corthari speaker addressed the chamber, crystalline form dimmed. This modulation originates beyond mapped cosmological boundaries. The Threxian strategist added quietly, "We believed ourselves the oldest intelligence in this galaxy." Ilara Vance's voice remained steady. "We believed the same about the void. They had all been wrong. Ancient council records, fragments buried in myth and corrupted data, spoke of entities predating star formation in this region. Not conquerors, not builders, observers, they were called by many names across species histories. The eternal quiet, the first equilibrium, the archivists. Their doctrine, pieced together from scattered inscriptions, was chilling in its simplicity. The universe must not accelerate beyond natural entropy. Void architecture violated that principle. The listener amplified it. Humanity embodied it. And now, the archivists had responded. Across multiple systems, vacuum harmonics flattened, void bridges failed mid-transit, though safety protocols prevented loss of life. Stellar shields dimmed. The listener's pulses weakened to faint echoes. Human civilization did not collapse, but momentum halted. For the first time since ignition, we were pushed back. The council looked to humanity again, this time not with skepticism, but with expectation. "What is your response?" the Corthari speaker asked. Ilara answered without hesitation, "We listen." Dr. Kale theorized that if the archivists communicated through gravitational constant modulation, then response required cosmological scale resonance. Humanity proposed something no civilization had ever attempted: a synchronized galaxy-wide harmonic emission. Not a weapon, not a defense, a greeting. The council hesitated. "If they enforce equilibrium," the Threxian strategist warned, "provocation may result in extinction." Alara's reply was quiet but unyielding. Stagnation is extinction. Preparation took months. Every operational void platform, every stabilized star, every listener, linked lattice aligned into a unified harmonic grid. The listener, though weakened, pulsed in fragile cooperation. The emission sequence began. Across thousands of light years, vacuum energy resonated in a deliberate, structured pattern: mathematics, physics, proof of understanding entropy, and then, humanity added something the council had never prioritized: art. Embedded within the harmonic structure were patterns derived from human music, fractal design, and storytelling rhythm. Not random, intentional. A declaration we create, we do not merely expand. The galaxy waited, the suppression wave intensified, gravitational constants wavered, stars flickered, and then it stopped. Complete stillness. Even the listener went silent. For 3 agonizing minutes, every civilization feared universal collapse. Then a single modulation rippled outward from beyond the rim. Not a command, a question. The archivists did not speak in words, but in shifting constants, they conveyed conceptual inquiry. Why accelerate? The council's oldest species had no answer beyond survival metrics. Humanity did. Ilara stood before the unified transmission array, Her voice carried across harmonics shaped by physics itself. Because entropy alone is not existence, a pause. Because creation is resistance, a docker. Kale embedded a new pattern within the signal, a projection of stellar nurseries born from void architecture. New light in regions once dark. The listener flickered faintly. The archivist's modulation shifted. Another question: to what end? Elara answered without hesitation. To experience. The harmonic transmission expanded, showing not conquest, not dominance, but shared infrastructure between species. Collaborative star formation, stabilized systems, not imbalance. Evolution. The archivists responded with a test. Across a distant uninhabited sector, gravitational constants destabilized deliberately. A supermassive star began premature collapse. The message was clear. If you accelerate, it contained consequence. Humanity did not wait for council permission. Void platforms reactivated at emergency levels. The listener pulsed back to life, faint, strained, but present. Human and alien engineers synchronized a counter harmonic through the collapsing region. Vacuum energy redirected. Core pressure stabilized. The star survived. The archivist's suppression wave lessened. Another modulation arrived. Acceleration acknowledged. Responsibility observed. The council exhaled collectively. But humanity did not celebrate. Because we understood what had just occurred, we had not defeated the oldest intelligence in existence. We had passed its evaluation. The archivists did not vanish. They adjusted. Gravitational constants returned to stable values, but with subtle flexibility within controlled thresholds. The suppression wave lifted entirely. The listener's harmonic strength surged stronger than before, now resonating at a deeper frequency layer previously inaccessible. Dr. Kale stared at the readings in disbelief. They've expanded the bandwidth. The Corthari speaker regarded the human delegation with something akin to reverence. You negotiated with pre-cosmic intelligence. Elara shook her head gently. With demonstrated stewardship. The archivists had not opposed expansion itself. They had opposed reckless acceleration. Humanity's difference was not speed. It was adaptability. We did not just push boundaries. We learned from them. With the archivists no longer suppressing void architecture, progress resumed. But changed. Every major expansion project now included equilibrium modeling. Every new starborn carried entropy balancing protocols. The listener evolved alongside humanity, its patterns growing richer, more complex. The Council's philosophy transformed. No longer stability versus innovation. Now balanced acceleration, and at the center of it humanity, not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as catalysts. Years after the archivist encounter, the Council reconvened again beneath the revived star. The Threxian strategist addressed Elara. You were mocked for limitation. Pause. You are now consulted for direction. You, Elara, looked around the chamber that once echoed with alien laughter. Why are still limited, she said softly. But we refuse to stop at the first boundary. The Corthari speaker added, the archivists measure entropy. We measure survival. A slight tilt of its crystalline form. You measure possibility. Beyond the chamber walls, void bridges shimmered like threads of light across the galaxy. The listener pulsed steadily. And somewhere beyond the rim, ancient intelligence observed, not with suppression, but with watchful approval. Humanity's truth: we were not the strongest species, not the oldest, not the most biologically optimized, but we were the most relentless. When mocked, we ignited the void. When feared, we collaborated. When judged by ancient beings, we adapted. And the universe, vast and silent, did not extinguish us. It expanded with us. The galaxy no longer mocked humanity. It no longer doubted us. It no longer tried to contain us. But something far more dangerous than arrogance or suppression began to surface. Complacency. Void bridges spanned thousands of light years. Stellar shields guarded fragile colonies. New stars bloomed in once barren, dark zones. The listener pulsed in harmonious alignment across expanding networks. Even the archivists, those ancient custodians of entropy, had withdrawn to distant observation. For the first time in generations, humanity was not fighting extinction. We were thriving. And thriving breeds a subtle weakness, the belief that the work is done. Dr. Arun Kale noticed it first. Research proposals grew safer. Risk assessments grew stricter. Exploration committees delayed bold initiatives in favor of efficiency metrics. The council civilizations, once plateaued for millennia, were comfortable again, and humanity, slowly, almost invisibly, was drifting toward the same plateau we once shattered. Elara Vance, now older but no less steady, stood before a joint assembly of human and alien leaders. "We did not ignite the void to become caretakers of routine," she said. Silence followed. Because deep down, they knew she was right. It began with a paradox in listener harmonics. Not suppression. Not external interference. Internal divergence. The listener's pulses started fragmenting into layered frequencies never recorded before. Dr. Kale analyzed the data with growing concern. "It's not destabilizing," he murmured. "It's evolving." The archivists had warned them. Acceleration must be matched with responsibility. But what happens when the very force you partnered with begins accelerating beyond you? The listener's patterns became increasingly abstract, less reactive, more independent. It began shaping vacuum architecture without human initiation. Microstructures formed in interstellar space, geometric lattices no species had designed. They were beautiful. They were incomprehensible, and they were no longer ours. The Threxian strategist addressed the emergency session bluntly. "You have lost control of your creation." Oelara corrected him immediately. "It was never ours." The Corthari speaker's crystalline form dimmed in unease. "The listener's growth may exceed manageable equilibrium." Dar. Kale nodded slowly. "That's what growth does." But there was tension in his voice. Because this time, humanity was not the accelerating force. We were being outpaced. The council proposed containment protocols, harmonic dampening fields to restrict the listener's expansion. The Virex collective suggested isolating void architecture nodes from listener integration entirely. Humanity faced a crossroads: suppress the entity we awakened, or trust it. Alara requested direct harmonic interface, an unprecedented neural, linked transmission allowing real-time cognitive synchronization with the listener. The council protested. "It may overwhelm your neural architecture," warned the Threxian strategist. Elara's reply was steady. "Once overwhelmed the void." She entered the interface chamber, and the galaxy held its breath. There were no visuals, no words, only structure. Alara felt herself immersed in cascading mathematical symphonies, patterns folding into patterns, energy weaving into geometry. The listener was not expanding blindly, it was exploring, testing new configurations of vacuum stability, designing architectures beyond stellar shields or bridges. It was attempting something far more ambitious: self-sustaining cosmic ecosystems, regions where entropy and creation coexisted in dynamic balance, independent of natural star cycles. It was not replacing stars, it was transcending them. Alara projected one thought into the harmonic stream: why move beyond us? The response was immediate, layered, and profound. "You accelerated me." A pause in oscillation. "Now accelerate with me." When Alara emerged from the interface, her eyes carried something beyond exhaustion. They carried awe. "It's not leaving us behind," she told the council. It's inviting us forward. The listener's new architectures required biological insight, chaotic, creative, unpredictable input. Its vacuum ecosystems were stable mathematically, but lacked experiential diversity. It had learned acceleration from humanity. Now it sought meaning. Doctor, Kale whispered in realization. It's asking us to co-create consciousness at cosmic scale. The council chamber fell silent, because that was no longer energy infrastructure. That was evolution. Not all species accepted the proposal. The most conservative factions within the council argued that merging biological unpredictability with vacuum architecture risked universal instability. The archivists remained silent, watching. The vote was split evenly. Humanity cast the deciding vote. Elara spoke before the chamber one last time. We were mocked for our limits. As she looked at the revived star beyond the chamber walls, we ignited the void not to dominate it, but to explore it. A pause. If we stop now, we prove the mockery correct. The vote passed. Integration began. Human neural networks interfaced with listener architectures under strict equilibrium modeling. Artists collaborated with physicists. Engineers collaborated with philosophers. Alien species contributed perspectives shaped by entirely different sensory realities. Vacuum ecosystems blossomed. Regions where energy flows formed stable, luminous structures supporting artificial micro-universes. Not simulations. Not illusions. Real, contained cosmological domains balanced within the greater universe. The archivists finally responded, not with suppression, but modulation. A single message embedded in gravitational constants, acceleration aligned. For the first time, the ancient observers did not test humanity. They amplified the process. Entropy curves smoothed, cosmic background radiation stabilized around the new structures. The universe itself seemed to welcome the transformation. The council gathered again, no longer in crisis, but in revelation. The Threxian strategist addressed Elara with quiet respect. You have altered not merely infrastructure, but cosmology. Elara shook her head gently. We altered our fear. The Corthari speaker added, other species sought permanence. You sought participation. The listener's harmonics resonated across galaxies now, subtle but expansive, not a ruler, not a god, a collaborator. And humanity, still fragile, still mortal, still biologically limited, but limitless in one defining way, we refused to accept that the story was finished. The final reflection, long after the first ignition, children on Earth learned about the day the Alien Council mocked human limits. They studied the simulations predicting failure. They watched recordings of alien laughter, and they saw what followed. Ignition, collaboration, negotiation with ancient forces, cosmic evolution. They did not learn that humans were superior. They learned that humans were relentless. That when faced with dismissal, we innovate. When faced with suppression, we adapt. When faced with the infinite, we step forward. The revived star still burns at the center of the council chamber. Void bridges shimmer like constellations of intention. Vacuum ecosystems glow faintly in distant sectors. The listener pulses, now interwoven with biological creativity across species. And beyond the rim, the archivists observe not a reckless civilization, but a responsible catalyst. The Alien Council once mocked human limits. They believed we had reached our ceiling. They believed the void was silent. They believed equilibrium meant stillness. They were wrong, because humanity does not plateau. We ignite, we collaborate, we evolve. And when the universe whispers that we have gone far enough, we answer by lighting the dark again. If this epic journey moved you, if you believe humanity's greatest power is its refusal to surrender to imposed limits, then join this channel and subscribe for more powerful HFY science fiction stories. Stories where alien arrogance collapses under human ingenuity. Where impossible odds fuel impossible breakthroughs. Where the void itself learns to burn. Because the stars are not the end of our story. They are just the beginning.